Welcome back to the homestead. It's officially fall, and as you can see, it's damp and rainy. But we thought we'd give you a little bit of a tour of the end of season garden and the homestead as it sits at the very beginning of our new season. So let's go take a look in the garden and see what there is to see.
So as Sue mentioned, it's kind of a dreary Saturday. It started raining. Fred's awake. It started raining last night at about 10 o'clock. We got 2 inches of rain last night. Supposed to rain some more this afternoon. You can see that our raspberries are doing really well. We got to do a lot of harvesting. And in general, throughout this garden, it's been an interesting experience. We built this bed here. Sue dug down about a foot. Fred's still awake. She mixed in a lot of organic matter. She really took a lot of trouble to make this bed really nice. Filled it full of carrots. Something ate all the carrots. Put tomatoes in it kind of late in the season. Didn't really get around to putting any cages on them because I figured it was too late in the season. And as you can see, the tomatoes are doing amazing in that bed. So we're learning a little bit. We've got, I don't know if you can get there from here with the camera, but our rhubarb. These two I put in almost solid horse manure, and they have just exploded. And now mind you, this ground right here is just terrible with poor quality. It's real shallow. There was ledge here, or bedrock, and we didn't do a lot of amendment to this soil because we were going to spot plant. So when I planted those, I did amend them with horse manure. But you can see that the strawberries are really
Raspberries.
I always get that backwards. Strawberries are the short ones, raspberries are the tall ones, which doesn't make any sense. But you can see they're really taking over here. So yeah, we're really excited about that because we've been eating berries off these for quite a while, and as you can see, there's a lot to pick. We did have we had a problem where, and you'll notice there's some berries that have gone by. The yellow jackets really started taking after these berries, and it got almost dangerous to pick them because they would. I think it's because you would sneak up on them because they would be buried in the berry eating it. But as we both kept getting stung, we decided to give up on that for a little while. But we found now that it's getting cooler, they're gone. And if we pick early in the morning or late at night, they're not around anyways. So again, learning. We got this winter's firewood all split. We didn't really bring you along for that. It was kind of a boring process, but we're going to build a little extension on that roof that comes out and covers 2 tiers of wood. Fred is so helpful. And as we mentioned in a couple of the other videos, if you've watched, one of our goals is to actually spend the winters on the road with the camper and go see some other parts of the US. So in general, the wood is really just a comfort thing for us. We have so much free electricity from the solar equipment that we're probably going to throw away somewhere around $800 to $1,000 for electricity this year because we just can't use it. So we do most of our heating with electric, but that being said, we still like to have the wood stove when it's cold or the power goes out, which is quite frequent. The summer kitchen has been working great. Been real happy with that. We've had a lot of fun in the summer kitchen, a lot of entertaining, just a lot of good fun nights around the fire. And a fun shot for me is if you just kind of stand right here where I'm standing and look back towards the chicken coop. You'd have to go back and watch a couple of the earlier videos, but that peach tree, the trees have just exploded. It's really amazing. For us, we don't really see it because we're here every day. But we were looking at some pictures of the chicken coop from back when we first started building it and planted those trees. And in a very short period of time, these trees have really taken off. I mean, you can see just this season how much growth that tree has put on. That's just as a reference, you know, that's about 8-ish inches. So that thing has put on somewhere around 2 feet of growth. And everything else is just doing good. You know, some of the rhubarb up here. Some of the rhubarb out here is not taking off like we hoped. We'll probably research some fertilizer for that, or maybe replant it in a lot more manure. The blueberries have done great this year as far as, settling in and growing and putting down roots. And yeah, we just kind of go through. The corn did good. Potatoes did really good. We'll have a video on harvesting potatoes soon. The basil did good. The purple cabbage did really good. We got our asparagus all backfilled, and you can see that's just growing like weeds. So that's going to be, hopefully we'll get a little bit out of that next year. And our strawberries.
Over there's the asparagus. And maybe I can get Ryan, when he does the editing on this, to put in a picture of this peach tree from earlier this spring.
If you guys remember, I'll try to find the video, maybe that will even be better, but we were at Tractor Supply and Sue found stick trees for like 10 for $1. Nah, it wasn't that cheap, but they were like $7 or $8 a piece or something. And this tree, and if you come over here I can show you, this tree stopped right here, and if I remember correctly, had no limbs on it, just a couple, maybe a couple small limbs, and that thing has exploded. I mean, that's amazing. And the trunk of the tree has gotten about double in size. So we'll try to find a picture, or at least link to the video. And the other trees are down there. They all have new growth on them. It's a little hard to see on camera, but what we did is, we still got a lot of work to do here for sure. But we put a row of trees down along that fence line. It's too steep to really mow or do anything with or garden in. So our plan is to put a couple rows of fruit trees down there. And you can see a couple of these other trees are, they didn't like the digging around their roots and stuff, and they probably won't survive. So that will just be a good replacement. And only one of those trees didn't make it, and it actually looked bad before we planted it. I don't know if some bug got it or what happened to it, but all the leaves wilted right off in it within like 24 hours in the bucket. This rhubarb's doing good. Corn, some more corn here. We picked most of our raised beds. You can see we got to come back and pick everything up and give it to the chickens. Strawberries have just taken off. Look at the runners way over under the solar modules. I think that we're probably going to be up to our ears in strawberries next year. Gardens did good. Beets did well. I think overall this year we were really happy with our success in gardening, if you will. It seems like every year you have good year and bad year on certain things. Our green beans down there, really I don't think got enough water. We had a really dry summer, and early in the summer we were worried about watering a lot because we have a well, and as dry as it was, we didn't want to take a chance on running our well dry. But we also have a very wet spot down behind the school bus. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I said, it's always wet down there, and we're in the middle of a drought. So I took the excavator down, I dug as deep as I could dig, and it filled right full of clear, cold water. And we're on solid bedrock right here, so it's hard for me to explain, but where those beans are, there's maybe 6 inches of dirt. Right here where the solar modules are, there's no dirt. That's why it's all rocky right there. Where the house is, there's no dirt to speak of. So I was able to dig 10 feet deep down there, and I was getting gravel. So I'm like, okay, this is good. This is going to be... So that filled right full of water. We put a submersible pump in a 55-gallon drum in there, and we pumped for this garden the whole rest of the summer. We figured that the pump moved, I'm trying to remember now, I want to say 100 gallons an hour, I think it was, or maybe it was 200 gallons an hour. But many, many days back to back, we let the pump run 12 hours a day, steady, watering this garden. We would just set the hose right in an aisle of potatoes and let it flood for like 4 hours and then move into another one. And that water never went down. So that's going to be a fun project for you guys to come along with us. I think we're going to end up probably doing a little pond down there. Can't do anything else with it because it's too wet. But the green beans down here suffered a bit of a drought in the beginning because we didn't get them watered away. And then when we went to Tennessee for 2 weeks, things got a little out of hand down there and the green beans went a little by. So we're letting those dry and go to seed so that we can use them next year. Other than that, I think our peas did really well. Our carrots are so-so. We've always had a hit or miss with carrots here. Sometimes we do really well with them in certain areas, and sometimes they just don't really take off. I think one of our issues may be that we don't thin them enough, and they fight for room. But the couple things we learned this year that would be, that are helpful, and we sort of knew both of these, but I didn't listen to Sue. One was to trellis the peas. We did not do that this year, so the peas that we planted down there didn't really, weren't able to flourish as well because they didn't have something to grow up. And the other one is we just never got around to caging our tomatoes. And that really, hampered production because they fall on the ground, they get blight, it's just hard to pick. But we still did good with tomatoes. We've done, I want to say, like 25 pints of spaghetti sauce and like 40 pints of salsa. We've had tomatoes on burgers. We've had tomatoes in salads. So we've done, acceptable with tomatoes for sure. We're not going to supply Walmart, but we did.
I bet we got close to 80 pounds of tomatoes.
Yeah, so we're happy with that.
And there are still, actually, if you look in the garden, there are quite a lot of tomatoes that we still have yet to harvest. We've got maybe 2 weeks before we're going to get our first frost. And of course that will be the very end of tomato season. Once we see that frost coming, we'll take all of the green tomatoes and
make a salsa
or wrap them in newsprint and put them in a drawer and see if we can get a couple of them to ripen up if they're really close. But our season for growing is waning quickly.
So yeah, we've learned a few things there. The blueberries down here that came from Norse Farms, you can see they're still putting on some new growth. We need to fertilize them real well, and we still need to mulch the other two. But they're setting in well. We haven't lost any blueberry bushes, so knock on wood. The fence seems to have really worked. We had a friend from Florida up for a while in his RV down here, and we got in the habit of leaving the gates open, and we never had any problem. He left for Florida, and we left the gates open that night, and the deer come in and ate. You can see where the strawberries are a little thin in the middle. The deer came in and ate half of that strawberry patch and nibbled on this tree in one night. So we closed the gates. That solved the problem. So far they haven't had an interest in jumping over it, which we know they can. But that's kind of it. And I told you we'd get to the school bus. So we ran into an interesting issue. My mother has a house in town that has a big garage, and there were probably, a school bus's worth of parts, truck parts, in that garage that were too good to throw away, but we didn't really have a storage space for it. And I was sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, well, maybe we'll build a pole barn up there. Maybe we'll get a shipping container was my next session, because pole barns are expensive right now because of the cost of material, and it takes time. And we're really short on time right now. And I started looking at shipping containers. So I called and got a price on a 20-foot shipping container delivered here. It was like $7 grand right now because of all the shipping shortages and everything else. So Sue came up with the idea. She goes, hey, I found an interesting idea. This might work. And she found a school bus. And it was a long ways away, and it was $2 grand. But that got me to thinking. I'm like, well, that's a big building. And so we kept looking around over the next couple days, and we happened to find this one 7 miles from us. Perfectly good running condition, automatic transmission, all new tires, blah, 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 blah. And just a little over $2 grand. So we immediately called the guy, said, can we come up and get it? And he's like, sure. So we get up there and he's like, well, do you want to test drive it? Like, no, I'm going to use it for storage. He goes, oh, it's a really nice bus. You sure you don't? No. And it is a really nice bus. It runs great. But that worked really well. We were able to actually drive it down to the garage, and we stacked it right full, as you can see. Our plan is to take the seats out of it and build some shelving in it so we can better organize. So you guys haven't got to see my shed yet, but we have a 8x12 shed out back, and everything is in there. I can tell you almost where everything is, but the problem is, like, I know I have all of this stuff. Like, I have circuit breakers by the bucket. I have pipe fittings by the bucket. But it's so hard to find them. When we need something, we go buy more, which isn't always a bad thing, but it would be nice to be able to take maybe the less valuable stuff, organize it here, keep all the electrical supplies in the shed nicely organized, so that when you say, hey, I need a receptacle, you can walk in and here's receptacles, here's switches, here's covers, No. Anyways, rant over, but that's why the school bus. So we're going to get shelves built on that. We're going to actually put it up by the road. Well, not right by the road, but we have a place up there that's kind of flat, just in front of the horse trailer on the side of the driveway. And that's going to allow us to put that up there. We'll probably put a fence down the side of it for the people coming down the road. And short term anyways, that's going to be our storage. So I think that's kind of, a nutshell on our summer. We've been pretty busy between, my mother's house and getting stuff done and going camping. We had a lot of company this summer. We had a friend up from Florida on 2 occasions. We had 2 different midnight employees out from Washington State to use the facility for testing. It really did keep us pretty hopping this summer. And now we're getting to the point where we need to get back to some work. We need to get some stuff done. We've got the apocalypse truck. We have another name for it, but we won't use that on camera in case the kids are watching. We got to get back on that. It needs a radiator put in it. We're going to get rid of the electric fans and put a regular fan on it, put a shroud on it so it doesn't overheat if you forget to pull the switch and turn the fans on. It needs a steering box, which, hey, there's one in the bus. We found one when we cleaned out the garage. And we found the fan and the shroud and everything for it. So you're probably going to see that in the next few days. Get in the shop, get some work done on that. And then we're going to get back to the old Dodge. Our trip to Tennessee with the Dodge really, it went well. I mean, I don't want to, give the whole details because there's another video that we'll try to link about that. The only issue we really felt like we had was we felt like we could use just a little bit more power. I mean, the Dodge is a bone stock Cummins truck. I think they're around 160 horsepower and maybe 300 foot-pounds of torque. And it's got 300,000 miles on it. So the engine is fine, according to everybody I talked to. They say don't touch the engine. They're good for the long haul. It looks like maybe with a little bit of an injector upgrade, new turbo, and a little bit of tweaking on it, we can probably get that to closer to 400 horsepower and 900 foot-pounds of torque. And then those hills in the Blue Mountains are just going to be a joke for the truck hauling the camper behind it. It actually will run cooler because it's get a little bit more fuel and a little bit more power. Right now we had to babysit the pyrometer and not overheat the engine exhaust wise, not antifreeze. So in a diesel engine, if you give it too much fuel and not enough air, it'll get hot and you'll end up melting pistons out of it. So that was the only thing that we really paid a little attention to, and you'll see a bunch of videos coming up on that. We're going to dig right into that. Going to do a lot of work on that because, again, this winter we plan on making a 2 or 3, 4 month trek around the warmer climates of the U.S. and we're going to take the old 300,000 mile multicolored Dodge for that trip. So I think that's about it. Appreciate you guys watching. Any questions about our gardens or what we learned, what we didn't learn, or any suggestions, we're open to that too, because hey, ultimately we learn every year. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.